Art with Miss Strauss, 3rd grade art for September 28th through October 16th. Are you ready for Lesson 4, Patterns, Create Interest? Lesson Objective. Number 31. You will use pattern to add visual interest. Setting up your art space. Find a comfortable spot for you and your art materials. The only thing you really need right now is your school laptop. I will explain more in the lesson and also show you what digital tools you could use. The other materials are optional. In this lesson, I will use basic school supplies like a regular number 2 pencil, art supplies like colored pencils, some plain copier paper, tape, and digital drawing tools. Did you know there is a difference between pattern and rhythm? What do you think it is? Both of these principles of design rely on repetition. However, rhythm is a varied repetition of certain elements of art. Pattern is when the elements are repeated in a specific order or reoccurring arrangement. We talked about the elements of art in Lesson 2. Do you remember the 7 elements of art? It's okay if you don't. The 7 elements are line, shape, color, texture, value, form, and space. Our words to know for Lesson 4 are pattern, rhythm, line drawing, area. Pattern. In math class, you may have practiced 2-part patterns or 3-part patterns. This pattern shows red, blue, red, blue, red. Do you see the pattern? What comes next? In art class, pattern is one of the principles of design. Patterns in art are also predictable. Pattern is when the same combination of shapes, colors, and/or lines are used throughout an area or the entire work of art. The same combination is repeated in order. In this image, the dots and shapes create a repeating pattern of light and dark triangles. Rhythm. We can hear rhythm in music. Rhythm in art is also a principle of design. Rhythm is similar to pattern because shapes, lines, and colors are repeated. But the combination or repetition of the elements does not have to be in a certain order. Notice in this image how the triangles repeat, but there is no specific order for the color. It seems like the color choice is randomly repeated. Line drawing. A drawing done using only narrow lines. This can be like clip art or a coloring book page. Area. Area is known as space. Space can be positive or negative. The area within a shape is the measurement of the 2 dimensions of height and width. Today's objective is to use pattern to create visual interest. Pattern is all around you. Without pattern, life could be boring. Look around you right now. Think about all the places where patterns could be hiding. Think about your clothes, things that you wear every day, and possibly even your couch, or the wallpaper in your bathroom, or your favorite blanket, and maybe even the floor. See if you can find patterns hiding where you are now. When artists are wanting to draw attention to an area of their artwork, they can use pattern. There are no rules when creating new patterns. There just needs to be a repeating element in the area. Using stamps, stencils, or other tools can help artists to create patterns. Some artists create artworks that are entirely made of patterns. How do you think pattern affects the interest of the artwork? It makes it look very interesting to me, especially with all the different sections of patterns within the art. In conclusion, pattern is created when one or more elements of art are repeated in a specific area. A great example of pattern can be found on your clothing. Without pattern, life could be boring. Artists add pattern to their work to create interest. Color, size, and space can all be put together to be used to create patterns in a final artwork. Today, I'm going to show you how I practiced patterns with this mixed media bird drawing. I started with a digital line drawing that I created on the computer, and this is just a blank piece of copy paper. You can see the birds through the paper, and that's what I want. Now I'm going to get my pencil bag. It really doesn't matter exactly what you use, but I prefer a number 2 yellow pencil, graphite pencil, just a regular school pencil for this. And a little bit of masking tape is helpful, just to keep the corners down. No, just teeny little bits. And I'm gently taping it to the table so that that doesn't slide around when I start drawing. Now, you can do this on a window too. If you can't see through the paper or don't have a light box, we can add a little bit of masking tape to secure it to the window, and our second piece of tape on our plain copy paper. You can see the birds much better. With my number 2 pencil, I'm going to trace the outline of the birds. I'm going to press pretty hard here and fill it in as much as I can. I want a lot of graphite in that place. Now I'm going to take it off the window. I just needed the one. There it is. Looks pretty good. Here we go. Back to the drawing table. My tape's still there, but I'm going to take it off. Bye, tape. Get my number 2 pencil ready, and I'm going to fill it in and press really, really hard. I want some really dark, dark, dark lines. I want to get all that graphite on the paper because I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to match these corners up. It's all lined up, slide down the edge, and start a crease. I'm not going to fold it all the way down because I'm going to go to the other side, match the corners again, and slide down to this edge, make sure it's all lined up, and start another crease. I'm not going to do it all at once, but I'm going to put it on the table. And it started. I make sure it lines up, and then I'm going to finish the crease. I'm going to press all the way and use my fingernail to make sure it's a nice, crisp line. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to fold it in half and matching the corners, starting creases, and crease down the edge. Use my fingernail to really get that edge nice. And then I'm going to unfold it. Now I have 4 quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there's only one bird, but I'm going to fold it in half again and make sure that my bird is on top. There's my bird, bird's on top, and I'm going to put it on the table. If you don't have tape, that's okay. You'll just have to be a little more careful. I'm going to take a tiny little piece here and a tiny little piece here just to secure it so it doesn't slide away. I'm going to transfer that graphite from the bird using a capped marker. So it's going to make a copy. I'm going to use a Sharpie and use the back side of it, and I'm going to press really hard, like really, really hard. And you can see my table is shaking even. I'm going to go all over and retrace the lines. Now we're going to take the tape off and unfold. If I've pressed hard enough, I will have a mirror image of my bird. There's my bird. So we're starting our patterns with our birds. Each bird is going to be part of our pattern. I'm going to fold it in half again, and we're going to do that same process, except for this time we're going to experiment with different tools. We're going to start with a crayon, and I'm going to follow that outline. And again, I'm pressing really hard. I want a lot of crayon there because we're going to transfer it. I'm adding more pencil to this bird. And we're going to fold and tape the opposite way. Make sure our birds are up. We're going to trace with our marker and press really hard. And we're going to take off that tape again and open it up. You can see I have 1, 2, 3, I wouldn't call that 4. I need to go back and press hard and redo that bird. So I'm going to try it again. I didn't tape this time, but I'm going to press really, 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 really hard with my marker and go over all the edges. We're going to trace it and See, that looks much better. I can see the outline of the bird. It's not perfect, but then I'm going to go back and trace those lines with my crayon. And now we're going to practice with some new tools. I'm just using whatever is in my crayon box, and I'm going to start practicing different patterns. Markers, I've got another piece of paper. I'm going to make some lines, some cool patterns this way. Each bird is going to have a different pattern. And I'm just going to experiment with my tools and see what happens. I've got a Q-tip and some crayons and some different markers, and I'm going to smear it around and see what happens. And I'm going to rub it with a Q-tip and see what happens and see how it changes. It's all about experimenting. And then this Q-tip's wet. I added a little bit of water. What do you think? I think it was a good idea, just a little bit. And then what now? This time I'm going to use my other tools. I've got some colored pencils and crayons and even some markers. What happens when you put markers on top? What happens when you put markers on the bottom? These are my practice birds. I hope that they inspire you to practice on your own. They all look a little bit different. They're all a different pattern, and it was all about experimenting with my lines and patterns. I hope you enjoyed this part of the lesson. We are back in Schoology, and if you notice, this page is very similar to yours, but it's not the same. This is my example classroom. We have optional extras for lesson 4. We're going to go down to Neo Folk Art with Kristen Farr and watch the short video.
When people see my art, I want them to feel maybe nostalgic or comforted or just happy. I just really want to make something that delights and dazzles you and just makes you smile, even if just for a minute. Hi, I'm Kristen Farr, and I like to make things like chairs that hug you. One of the things I make is the awesome video series you're watching called Art School that I help produce with my colleagues at KQED. And when I'm not doing that, I write for an art magazine. And when I'm not doing that, I'm painting in my studio, which is where we are today. Visually, in the last few years, I've been influenced by Pennsylvania Dutch folk art, particularly these hex signs that people painted on their barns for decoration. And I got really into those and did a lot of research and have been painting my own hex signs pretty obsessively for about 3 years. I started making these geometric designs that have existed forever. There's sacred geometry, there's geometry in nature, there's geometry in like ancient tile work and things like that. First I was doing this more sloppy geometry, and then I had a desire to make it more organized and do something that was really pattern oriented. And then it was just a bonus that it referenced Pennsylvania Dutch folk art because my dad's family is Pennsylvania Dutch. And I found out after I'd been painting these for a while that my dad used to make hex sign shaped souvenirs for tourists when he was growing up. So I really felt that this form of folk art was in my blood and in my history, my family history, and it was something that I could carry on like a legacy and put a little modern twist on it. I was making them my own by using like really bright neon colors. When I'm first getting prepared to start a painting, some of the color choice is intuitive, whatever I like. But a lot of times I'm planning it out based on how detailed the painting is. If I want to alternate colors in the middle, say like red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, or if I want to just use one color per shape. Right now I'm working with the 16 color rainbow spectrum because the piece I'm working on has 16 triangles in the middle. And I'm trying to take those 16 colors and create 16 spirals all together that create one mind-blowing painting. I'm not like part of the, or I don't feel part of like the history of painting and how far you can stretch a medium. I'm more interested in all the different rainbows you can create and all the different spectrums and gradients and how you can make colors vibrate by pairing them up with contrasting colors. I look at those paintings and it's like my eyes vibrate, and I don't really consider like psychedelic colors or I'm trying to make psychedelic work, but when you put certain colors next to each other, they mess with your eye in a really fun way. They become animated. Even though it's a static image, the colors create motion. I think at the core of everything I do, whether it's painting or interviewing someone or writing an article, it's really just to inspire other people to be creative. Everyone liked coloring when they were a kid. It's just at some point you start to feel like, well, maybe you're not that good at coloring, or maybe you don't have any business coloring, but you do.
Like to learn more about Kristen Farr and how she makes her designs and patterns, there's other options that you can see and view on your own. Back in Schoology, there are 2 more links that I'm going to talk about. Pattern Shapes Math Learning Center. You probably already have this app on your computer. On this page, you can use these shapes to make interesting patterns, like what we saw in the last video. You can select different colors and shapes. Be creative and have fun. I'm going to go back to Schoology again and look at the next thing on the list. This is just for fun, patterns practice. And this is just for fun, but I hope that you can check out these fun patterns and be inspired to create your own. If you don't have a computer program that you can draw these on, you can simply look at the screen and draw patterns of your own on the paper. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me, how do I record a video or take a photo with my school computer? On your school laptop, you're going to click over here in the corner, and you can see, you can type in camera and click on this camera icon. From here, there's our friend. You can hold up your art that you've drawn, and there's a little button to click to take either a photo or a video. We're going to click this button here to take the photo. Now we're going to share that photo. So we're going to go to the files, and this is where our photos and screenshots and downloads are saved. It's a IMG JPEG file. You can rename it if you want to. Here we can submit assignments and upload our file. Okay, so our friend is going to help us out here, and he's going to click on his file to show us what you should see on your school laptop. Look for that file that we just saved, select it, and then there it is, that IMG photo file, and click submit. You can see the assignment is submitted, and you're done.